Where's north from here?
Alreet Trainers, I'm some northern guy. Leading up to the release of Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, I made a video discussing my planned team for the game, basically what Pokemon I intended on using and why I wanted to use them. Well, the games have been out for over 2 months now, so I think it's about time I delivered on what I promised. My actual Let's Go Eevee team, and how it stacked up against the one that I planned to use, which if you need a little reminder, looked like this. A rotation of 10 Pokemon giving me options for hopefully any situation. Now obviously my starter was Eevee because I got Let's Go Eevee, and I was blown away by how much fun this little guy was to use. Or rather little girl, because my Eevee was female. I fell in love with the partner Eevee, its personality, its many different clothing options, and its crazy moveset that it has, thanks to the unique attacks it can learn based off all its evolutions. Yeah, suck it Pikachu, have fun with those 3 unique moves, buddy. Needless to say, my Eevee was a powerhouse thanks to the buffs the partner Pokemon receive in these games, and it honestly was clutch in several major battles. I was debating catching a wild Eevee and then evolving it into Flareon and using that instead, but I'm so glad I didn't do that. The next member of my team was Victreebel that I caught as a Bellsprout on Route 1. Well, technically, I did catch a Bellsprout on Route 1 and I used it for about half the game. However, I didn't realise that the Pokemon move pools in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee had drastically been reduced and simplified, just like they were in the original Gen 1 games. Certain Pokemon would learn their final moves stupidly early, like mid-20s, especially ones that evolve with the evolution stones. So in short, I evolved that original Bellsprout into Weepinbell, but then I evolved it into Victreebel too soon, so it didn't learn its strongest moves. And I thought it'd take ages to get to those moves, like level 40, level 50, so I decided to resort to TMs. Again, drastically reduced in number like the original games, and I just went ahead and slapped the Leaf Stone on it. And by the time I realised my cock-up, my Victreebel was struggling to keep pace with the difficulty curve. It was getting its arse kicked. So just before I got to Fuchsia City, I caught another wild Weepinbell, leveled it up until it had no more moves to learn, and then I evolved it and used that Victreebel for the other half of the game. But don't tell anyone that. The third member of my team was one I had no intention of using. As soon as I was able to, I used the free Mew that was inside the Pokeball Plus. Now I know, what a sellout, right? But the thing is, I never use legendary and mythical Pokemon in playthroughs, and I just wanted to shake it up a little bit. Why not try it out? And obviously Mew was overpowered and it mullered pretty much everything, so I saved it for when I was in a dire situation or specifically needed a psychic type. Now I'm not entirely sure when I stopped using it, but I didn't use Mew for the whole game. I think I boxed it after I beat Sabrina, as I just didn't really need it for what was ahead, so yeah, I didn't use it all the way through the game. But it was still really fun to use when I did use it, and it's made me like Mew a lot more. And following swiftly on from Mew came Nidoqueen, who I caught as a Nidoran just outside the Pokemon League. And I'd always planned on using Nidoqueen, as I wanted to see how she compared to Nidoking. I evolved her just before battling Lieutenant Surge to gain the electric immunity from her ground type, and then pretty much just used TMs to kit out her moveset. Although she was a decent Pokemon, Nidoqueen wasn't as bulky or tanky or long-living as I'd expected her to be. I always thought she was really defensive compared to Nidoking. She was in the early to mid-game, but come badges 6 or 7, she was getting KO'd left, right and centre. Regardless, I don't regret using her, and when the situation demanded it, Nidoqueen came through hard, especially against Giovanni, and she won some big battles for me. So those 4 Pokemon got me past Brock and all the way to Mount Moon, where I snagged my next team member, Clefable. No, I actually caught a wild Clefable. Like, this is a thing. I was just knocking around Mount Moon and boof, this thing appeared. I lost my shit. However, I soon realised the move pool issue that seemed to plague a lot of my team, so I ended up catching a Clefairy and I used that instead, and I evolved it with the Moonstone just before Rock Tunnel. It was a lot of fun using a Fairy type in Kanto for the first time. Pressing on through Mount Moon, I reached Cerulean City and got my 6th team member and first Alolan form, Alolan Rattata, who evolved into Alolan Raticate by the time I'd left Cerulean. Now, people doubted this badass on my planned team vid, but my god, it is amazing! It murdered the Psychic and Ghost types of the region just like I wanted it to. Sabrina stood no chance, right? It was almost cruel. I felt bad for Sabrina. Alolan Raticate took me completely by surprise. I seriously didn't expect it to be so good. But it was a heavy hitter on the team, and I took it all the way to the end. I've got a major respect for the Route 1 normal types after this. Move over, Joey. The top percentage of Rattata has got a new head honcho. So with a team of 6 fully established, it was time to start rotating. Upon reaching Vermilion City, I received my 7th team member, Squirtle, from Officer Jenny, who fully evolved into Blastoise and stayed with me for the entire journey. I never planned on using all 3 Kanto starters, especially the gifted ones. In my opinion, it's super generic and boring. I mean, I've been there and done that in the 90s many times, but I wanted to use at least one of them. And Blastoise seemed to go well with Eevee, mostly because of Gary Oak from the anime. Obviously it was a powerhouse, especially after getting access to Mega Evolution, and became a staple on my team. It was also nice to use a Kanto starter other than Charizard, as that's usually my go-to choice. Sorry, Pokéref. The one thing I will say, I am still incredibly upset that we couldn't surf on Blastoise's back. We can fly on Charizard, why can't we surf on Blastoise? It really annoyed me, but apart from that, I've actually started to like Blastoise a lot more after this playthrough. These 7 got me through the first 3 gyms and through Rock Tunnel to Lavender Town, but in Rock Tunnel itself, I found a big surprise. Wild Kangaskhan, what? Obviously I caught one, and I used it for a while on the team. Kangaskhan can take hits and hit back even harder, plus it was my first ride Pokemon. Look how freaking adorable Eevee is riding in its pouch. I didn't use Kangaskhan long, to be fair. I boxed it after I beat Koga, I think. But for the short time it was with my team, it was an unstoppable force. The reason I boxed it was because I didn't want too many normal types. There was no way I was going to box Eevee, and Raticate had the added benefit of being Dark type as well. So, fortunately, Kangaskhan had to go. After Lavender Town, I did something I've never done before. I went to Saffron City before I did Celadon. And as soon as I arrived in Celadon, I got the tea from Brock, and I gave it to the guard at the Saffron Gate and went straight to the fighting dojo. And I kicked all their asses, which was a little tricky to be fair, because I was a bit underleveled, and was presented with the choice of Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan as my prize. Now originally, I wanted to use Machamp on this team, but after learning it was a ride Pokemon, it actually put me off. Now I know that sounds really weird, but I wanted Machamp to walk around the region with me like a giant badass bodyguard, not carry me around like some weird Pokedaddy. Like, that really freaked me out in Sun and Moon, not gonna lie. So I chose Hitmonlee as my fighting type instead, and was pleasantly surprised by it. I usually go with Hitmonchan, so I haven't used Hitmonlee that much. And with Hitmonlee on board, I steamrolled through Team Rocket, Pokemon Tower and Erica, and then pushed on to Fuchsia City and my next 2 teammates. Originally, I took Pokemon Road to get to Fuchsia, which used to be the cycling road, and on the way, I caught a Rapidash. And I'll admit, Rapidash wasn't as good as I'd have hoped. I had always planned to use it, because it's the only Kanto fire type I've never really used. And it was interesting to say the least, but, again, like Nidoqueen, it wasn't as good as I was hoping it to be. However, it became my go-to ride Pokemon, as it's crazy fast. And then once I got to Fuchsia City, I connected with Pokemon Go through the Go Park, and transferred over an Alolan Sandshrew. Now since this is Let's Go Eevee, I couldn't trade for one in Celadon City. On Let's Go Pikachu you can, but in Let's Go Eevee it's Alolan Vulpix instead. Which is why I transferred from Pokemon Go. It's the only Pokemon I transferred over, because I didn't want to rely on Pokemon Go to get all the Pokemon I wanted for this team. But in this case, I had no choice. I could either trade with myself from Pokemon Go, or track someone down with Let's Go Pikachu. Anyway, I evolved Alolan Sandshrew into Alolan Sandslash, and my god, it became the backbone of my team. Alolan Sandslash dominated pretty much everything with its Ice and Steel type. It was insane! I then flew back to Lavender Town and took the long way back to Fuchsia to train for Koga, and this is when I got that second Weeping Bell. But just before I took on the gym, I unlocked Sea Skim for Eevee, so I abandoned Fuchsia again, flew back to Pewter City, grabbed the old Amber from the museum, flew to Pallet Town, surfed to Cinnabar Island, and resurrected Aerodactyl, adding my final team member to my rotation. Aerodactyl worked wonders against the final 4 gym leaders and quickly became one of my new Gen 1 favourites. It was fast, it hit hard, and riding around Kanto on it was bloody hilarious, especially when you can't actually fly it and you have to like fly along at ground level. It just looks ridiculous, I love it. With my team complete, I defeated the remaining gyms, thwarted Team Rocket's evil plans, and headed for the Pokemon League. So those were all the Pokemon that I used on my journey. I rotated them around a lot depending on the gym leader I was facing next or what area I was in. However, I decided to only take 6 to the Pokemon League and stick with those 6 for the whole challenge. Sure, I could have rotated them between battles, but I felt like that would have been a bit cheap. So instead I worked out the best 6 to take with me based on what the Elite Four had, what types they were based on, and what Pokemon they actually had on their teams, and what the champion had. Now I had the advantage of knowing what was coming ahead because my wife and I had already defeated the Elite Four on our co-op playthrough. So the final 6 I used to defeat the Elite Four and champion on my solo playthrough were Eevee, Blastoise, Aerodactyl, Alolan Sandslash, Hitmonlee, and Victory Bell. So how did my actual team compare to my planned team? Well, I used every Pokemon I planned to except for Machamp, and I ended up using a few I didn't even consider. Now while some of the Pokemon I used vastly outclassed the others, I enjoyed using each and every one of them, and I had a brilliant time with Let's Go Eevee. I think it's a remarkable game. I've recently started my second playthrough on a different Switch profile because we can do that, by the way, without having to delete your save file. Just make a new profile, you can play it again. It's brilliant, it's about bloody time, Pokemon. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see who I use in the endgame this time around. I've got a few ideas in mind. What did you think of my Let's Go Eevee team? Share your thoughts down in the comments and let me know what your team was upon your return to Kanto. Thanks very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel and click that bell for more content. I'll see you all in the next video, but until then, keep training and have a good one. See you later.
See you later.
Oh god, she's here.
Hello.